when we speak about debating like a politician, when Nicole invited me for this, I mean, I got very interested about this because even though I'm not a politician myself, in the traditional sense of the word, in the sense that I do not contest elections, I do not contest local elections or European elections or national elections. Probably if I was younger, with what I'm seeing happening around us in Malta at the moment, I think I would consider actually engaging in one of the political parties. Wouldn't know which one at this point in time, which is significant in itself because I can't really understand what political parties are about at the moment. Where's the ideology? Where are the principles? What are their values? They seem like being very, very neoliberal and capitalist, but I can't identify. But anyway, I probably would be, if I'm at the age, most of you are much younger than me. I probably take on politics also as a career or a profession. But there are different types of politicians. No, I think NGOs are politicians, people who are engaged in media, people who are involved in activism of some sort, are all very important politicians that are extremely important in our society. So I would classify myself as being in that place. First of all, in my role as an academic, because academia commits you not only to teach and scholarship and research and all the rest, but it's also about engaging in the community and what we call democratizing our knowledge. So getting the knowledge that we have and throwing it back into our communities in a way that it is understood, without sounding patronizing, but in a way that is understood. Let me give you an example. Last year, we did a research on loneliness in Malta, and we found that about 44% of the Maltese population has strong or very strong feelings of loneliness. We could have done papers with that. We did research papers, we did reports and all of the rest, but we then took it back, threw it back into the community in a language that is understood, that is a language that connects us with people rather than puts us at a distance from each other. And we try to find solutions, not only in terms of policy, but in terms of engaging with people. So politics, in a way, is being done in academia. It's being done through my involvement in the media. I have a regular column on one of the English newspapers. I have a radio show on a Saturday, and there I engage with different teams. So what I'm trying to say, apart from sharing part of my CV with this new bunch of friends that I have here in front of me, there's also the issue of actually finding your own channels of creating politics. So that is something that I felt that I'd like to share. Now, when it comes to debating, I think when it comes to politics, I think there are two crucial elements. Now, I'll be telling you there are 4 crucial elements, 5, 6, 7, so there's a lot of crucial elements coming towards you. But I think I would start with 2 very important keywords, if I may. One is convincing, and the other is debating, or maybe the other way around. So debating is fundamental. So debating is the arena that brings us together, and there we have an issue that needs to be dissected, it needs to be analyzed, and after analyzing this debate, we obviously come up with solutions, possibly, or else there's this exchange. But then there's another very important concept, which I would like compare to like a train with 2 carriages linked to each other. So you have the front part of the train, the engine is the debater, the person who is leading the debate. But then you have 2 elements: debate per se, the scenario where it's all going to happen, the concepts, the issues that need to be analyzed, need to be looked into, and you need the art of convincing. So good politicians, good debates are founded on convincing. Now, just for, if I had to sort of put a bit of a side note there, convincing, there are also ethical issues there, okay? So I don't know if I have time to deal with that, but there are also very important issues around ethics there. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. So do I convince, like most politicians do, that our life will be like heaven on earth, with all the perks, all the opportunities, etc. And then the day after elections are done and people are elected, sort of everyone seems to fizzle into thin air, disappear into thin air. I think that is an unethical way of convincing. That is not convincing. That is deceiving. But there are other ways of convincing which are ethical. So that is something that we'll be looking at. Now, a certain French moralist would say, Joseph Joubert, he said, "It is better to debate a question without settling it than to settle a question without debating it." So, and there are loads of these like inspirational quotations that come up every now and then that talk about this issue. Now, another very important principle that I would like place in this field of debate, of the debate that we have in front of us, is that we might be creating a situation in our communities, in our discourse, in the way we relate to each other, that is, which is more, we are more focused on trying to be politically correct than being political. So we are more interested in saying the right things, not offending, which is fine, writing it how it should be, you know, that's fine, rather than looking at the political ramifications of the debate. And that at times comes in the way. So we need to find a way how to remain respectful, have clear political correctness, even if we might not agree with some issues. But at the same time, we need to ensure that the debate remains political. And when we talk about political, it remains alive, it remains enthusiastic, it remains challenging, and I would say it also remains unresolved. Okay, so I do come a bit from the left sort of leaning thinking. So I think that if we really want to be effective in our communities, we need to ensure that we remain critical, we remain open to ideas, we are ready to change, to reposition ourselves. So that is, I think, an essential part of being political. If we had to go back like hundreds and hundreds of years, and one very important personality that spoke about communication was Aristotle, and basically he said because I think this great philosopher, probably sometime around 300 BC, if I may be right, and he said that he came up with this model of communication, and one of he created like a model. He came up with this communication chain, and he said that basically, or you know, that there is the speaker, which is really important, and this relates a lot to what Maria has just said. There's the speaker, there is the speech, there is the occasion, there is the audience, and there's the effect, there's the impact. So there's the speaker, there's the person who's going to engage with the debate, who's going to come up with the issue. There's the medium, okay, then there's the speech, the actual discourse that is going to be put forward, the debate that is going to be put forward. Then you need an occasion, you need a context. And I think this is really important, that having a context and the right context and positioning with you in a moment, Steve, and in a position to implant your ideas within a context is really important, because the context is fundamental. Saying things in the right way, but in the wrong or in the not appropriate context or occasion, or with the right dose, the right momentum, the right energy, I think that will lose out the whole objective. So the occasion is fundamental. Obviously, with the occasion comes the audience and relationship with the audience. We'll be speaking about this in a moment. And obviously, then you would expect the effect, the impact. I think the debate is a process that obviously involves formal discussion. It involves a formal discussion on a particular topic. It is most of the times, as you said, Steve, as you pointed out, it is there are opposing arguments or opposing positions most of the times, and which obviously leads to opposing viewpoints. There's definitely an element, and we'll be talking about some basics, which I'm sure most of you will have come across, but some basics when it comes to linking up with on how to engage. And I think timing is fundamental. I think timing is of the essence, like in everything else in life, probably. Timing is of the essence. So it is not only the content, but as we said, as Aristotle gave us a cue a couple of centuries ago, it is also about the context, the place where this debate will happen. Maybe something that it is a bit of a play with words, maybe, but something that comes to mind also is that debating and arguing are at times used interchangeably. Locally, we use argument many times to denote a negative aspect. Maybe people won't agree with me, but when we use in Maltese, et nargumenta miak, I am arguing with you, et nargumenta miak. Most of the times it's when, kids are arguing with their parents, or parents are arguing, or partners are arguing between themselves, but that's sort of, there's a negative slant to that. When it's debate, there are defined ground rules, and I think that is another important element that we need to keep in mind. When we are debating, I think the ground rules need to be very clear. Not too many ground rules, but they have to be clear. In terms of, like Maria said, in her involvement, in her engagement with the political party she's involved in, when it comes to, for example, speaking about LGBTIQ, I don't know, pro-choice issues, or legalization of marijuana, or I think it isn't a question of where we are going, but where we are starting from. So that is something that I think is important. That looking at debate, it helps you develop, obviously, your understanding. It helps you make reasoned and well thought out ideas, and also helping you question the evidence. I think questioning is also another very important aspect. What behind the stance, behind the position that you are taking. So people need to have the space to question you. We also, I think, need to keep in mind, without laboring too much on this, because I'm sure you have come up with this through JCI and other organizations you're involved in, but there's the issue that we need to work within a notion around democracy as well, to create, to present, to evaluate, but within a democratic context, within a democratic scenario. I think this is also another very important element in our debating skills. Maybe some have been to Hyde Park and seen, I don't know if it still happens, people standing on soapboxes and speaking their thoughts. And people used to go there and have a laugh at them and be very, very, very inhumane at times, taking the mickey. But the idea of soapboxes, of people standing on a soapbox, was very strong in Hyde Park. I remember it when I was a very, very young. The idea of a soapbox is because you have a race, obviously you have a race platform, and one stands to make an impromptu speech or present an idea on a political subject. Now, I'm bringing in the idea of a soapbox because the moment that you are in a debate, you are on a soapbox. And with all the risks that comes, that brings with it. Which might be that you might stammer through an argument because you're excited or not confident enough. It could be that the wind is taken out of your sails because somebody comes out stronger at the start of an argument. It could be that you are not managing to connect with people, with your audience. So this feeling, I think you need to prepare for it as well. Psychologically, you need to be prepared not to lose out on the argument, but on the hostility that comes with bringing forward an argument, especially when the arguments are not popular or they are not hip. Let me give you an example, a very simple example. I have a colleague, an academic, very established academic, very intelligent, very smart person. And we're having a chat a couple of months ago, right before COVID, right before Christmas. And he was telling me that, the faculty is fine. There's a lot of debate going on. He said, but when it comes to me talking about the fact that I do not believe that divorce is a good idea and shouldn't be legalized, and things should go back to as they were before. He said, I do not feel that there is the space for me to do that. And this worried me because this is a faculty for social sciences, so it should be an arena of ideas. But apart from that, what worried me is that the thought of this person standing on the soapbox and being laughed at, or not being taken seriously, or being considered a jester, a joker, because he happens to be he is hasn't got a sort of a popular idea coming through. So that's why I wanted to bring in the idea of the soapbox, not to shy away from getting away from debate, but to actually prepare yourselves mentally and psychologically for these encounters. Let's admit it, for at least for a couple of seconds, that politicians never get an easy deal. They are always put on the spot. Let's give them that for a moment. They might get themselves on the spot at times. They mess things up as well, but they are also put on the spot regularly, and so at times they probably come up with these devious, if you want, strategies. I really want to believe that our politicians here locally, without sounding negative, because I'm sure there are a couple who are trying to do a good job, but that they actually read the reports that they read, because I'm not sure they do. I hear Parliament regularly and Parliament debates regularly, and I'm not too sure that they actually read research that is going on. They are engaged in the issues from a technocratic point of view, but are more interested in just sharing ideas. So yes, so and they throw opinions around. So that does bother me. Playing the technical game, we have that as well, which needs to be challenged. Going back to Aristotle, I think he came up with 3 very, very interesting skills. If I may, I would suggest that when you are debating, obviously I'm suggesting, I don't sound patronizing at all, okay, that might be the fact that this is not my first language. If I sound that way, it's not intention, but 3 things that I suggest that you pick up when it comes to public speaking are the notions of logos, ethos, and pathos. Now logos, if we had to go through them very, very quickly. Logos let's start from logos. Once I mentioned it, logos is the logical reasoning in your debate. So you need your argument needs to be equated with reason. You can't go well, you can, but you risk a lot if you go plunging, diving into an argument without being embedded in facts, evidence, and figures. Facts, evidence, and figures, which are understandable to other people. So if you start coming up with coefficients and this and that and all these numbers, like the economists do, I mean, then I think you're in trouble, because you get yourself exposed. Because there will always be somebody who's better in the sums, who's better in statistics, and you'll end up reeling, trying to justify what you say. So go for the simple, straightforward statistics. There are 50% of the population in Malta, for example, who are racist. There are another 20 who are afraid of black people. There are 30. So go for solid numbers that are easy to justify from where they are coming. So there's so logos. It's equated with reasoning, logical reasoning, with facts, not necessarily with statistics, but with facts. And obviously, that's a subject that merits having statistics. Go for evidence, go for figures, go for statistics, but keep it simple. Keep it as simple as possible. Then there's the ethos, and I think this is where it is very difficult to concretize, but it is more an energy that you need to share. It is more an attitude, if you want. So ethos is about ethics. It is about positioning yourself with that notion. It is about radiating morality. It is about having a moral character. It is about an aura that you build around you of trust, of authority as well, but of trust. This guy, this person, this individual is not trying to take the piss. Is not trying to play around. So you know where I stand. If we're going to talk about, let me give you an example, a real example. If you're going to talk to me about, if there's a debate about abortion, I'll take a very clear position on where I stand with abortion. I disagree with abortion, and I position myself. You get a lot of respect, not when you agree with your opposing, with your opponent, but you get a lot of respect when you position yourself. And the ethos, the sort of the human character, you are made available to the people. So that's the second thing, the ethos, the human character, the radiating the morality, the moral, the trust and the authority. That doesn't mean that you are right. That doesn't mean that your position is right because you feel that it is morally justified, mind you. And it doesn't mean that you do not change. It doesn't mean that either. It means that you are packaged, or rather unpacked, the other way around, really, unpacking yourself and who you are. Second. The third is the pathos. Now, this is a bit of a trick. There's the need for the emotional appeal. Make sure that when you are arguing, you're not you're not rigid in the sense you're not, you use the audience emotions, draw people in. It is sort of an infusion, if you want, of enthusiasm and passion. You get people enthusiastic about your ideas. That doesn't mean that they will agree with you, but they will listen to you, because there's passion, there's pathos, there's appeal, there is an interest. You are interested in getting to know what this person is all about. What is he? What is she talking about? I mean, he sounds really, really, emotional, really enthusiastic. So having this balance of energy, emotion, and passion also in your debate. So there's the logic, there's the ethos, and there's the pathos. What comes first? It very much depends. It depends whether you are starting the debate. It depends whether you are responding to a debate. What is important is that, especially when it comes to pathos, you use economically and in small doses. Don't come up with this. I have this. I mean, don't overdo it with the pathos. Don't overdo it with the emotion. I've been kicked in my ass, and I have, I've gone through all of this suffering. Okay, I mean, try to keep it down. Try, especially for the Mediterranean people, okay, who tend to be all about moving their hands and gesticulating and all over the place. But good doses at the right moment of saying, listen, there is this fact. We know that 1,300 women a year, and this is not counting the black statistics, the dark statistics, sorry, are reporting the cases with the police officers. Now, it is estimated that there are 3 times as many people who do not report domestic violence. And I know this person, this Sharon, who has gone through the pain of walking into a police station with her clothes completely tattered, half undressed, after getting a beating. And what she gets from a police officer is that, madam, what did you tell him to wind him up in this way? What went on? And this person deflated. So there you have a mix of, and this is a true story, by the way, but there's a mix of mentioning the data, bringing forward the data, packaging it into a logical argument. There is violence, the movement of the person, the imagery around what is happening, the experience at home, which is too difficult and too hard to sort of explain, but this person is going into the police station. And then there's the story, the pathos. So pathos is not, putting guilt feeling in people. Mind you, pathos is about the emotions, bringing in the emotion in the story. So I think that this might help as a triangulation of where you position your argument. Where you position your argument. Sorry, I have the dog moving around. So this is where Alexander the Great, this guy with shining armor and nice horses, who went on to defeat the Persian Empire, would have this very important, the battle cry. He was famous for his battle cries, his speech, the audience. So he's telling them what is going to happen, there's the context, what is going to happen, and then obviously the romantic elements of bringing in excitement in the soldiers, convincing them that it is okay to get stabbed in their chest by a sword, because they'll be doing it for something which is bigger than them. So there's the logic, there's the technique, You have to do your work as a soldier well, so that you protect yourself and you protect your empire and your emperor. But at the same time, there is this passion which is transmitted through the speech. And Alexander the Great is known for these speeches. What I think is happening is that we have dismantled our political system. We have created a vacuum. We have created a major space, a big space, which like it always happens. Unfortunately, it's filled in by right-wing extremists and right-wing positions, which more often than not appeal to the general public, because they fulfill or they respond rather to the fears of people. And I think that is creating a major problem. That is why I think these initiatives are important. That's why I think we need to invest in political studies. That is why I think we need a new crop of young people to fill in these important political posts, because if not, it's going to be filled in by these people. So yes, I do share that concern. I also think that they use this triangulation of ethos, especially pathos, really, as you said, as you pointed out, to actually bring about the sympathy of people. So we have a very serious situation in our labs. And no, I actually do not have an answer to how we're going to respond to that, except that I think young people have a major role in filling in these gaps. The only problem is that getting involved in politics in some countries is becoming less and less attractive. And that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. The issue around the opportune moment or the right time is definitely now. I need to base this on my memory, which might not be that fresh after it's been a bit of a long day, but. If I'm not mistaken, when it comes, the Greeks had two words for time as well, which is like giving these two notions. One is based on chronology, one is based on sequential. But anyway, what is important here, not to overload people with information, is that yes, I think the context is fundamental, but it is also creating the context, because before we spoke about the context per se, but now we can also talk about creating the context, creating the scenario. So political debate, in a political debate, usually that scenario is created for you. You have almost the choreography is happening around you, and so you have to sort of somehow fit into that. Now the challenge is how you're going to use that choreography, by either recreating that choreography, by taking control of that context, and repositioning the whole debate around what you have to say. Now that is a lot to do, that is based a lot on experience. It is based a lot on a number of things. For example, on how you introduce yourself. If I had to go back, Nicole had sort of gave you a bit of an idea of what is going to happen. What I try to do is I recreated a bit of a choreography for myself, the way I move, the way I talk, the pauses that I'm having, the way I'm communicating with people. So I was given the space, that's great by JCI, but then I sort of recreated the choreography. And you can do this by introducing yourself, the way you introduce yourself, or the way you don't introduce yourself. It might be at times more enticing not to say anything or too much about yourself, so that it keeps people interested to try and decipher from where this person is coming. What is his background? What is her background? What does she believe in? I tried to give a couple of ideas. I tried to confuse you in a way, saying I am very left, but at the same time I do not agree with issues like, for example, pro-choice, like abortion. So I created these dichotomies also, to keep people in tune with what. With trying to keep the crowd. So it is all the time playing a bit of a game, not by cheating, but by throwing things out occasionally. Apart from that, I think it is very important in all of this scenario, which Jenny sort of slipped us into it, that you have to position yourself without being defensive. That is very important. Do not go on the defense. That is the worst thing that you can do. If anything, you have to be humble enough to say, listen, I really don't know about this. I have to pull out from this because I don't know what you're talking about. This is an aspect which I don't really understand, and so you need to rethink your strategy. It will give you some time. It's also important to create eye contact with your audience. Usually it's the easiest thing would be to either capture the eye contact from people who seem disinterested or people who are very interested. Anything in between, I wouldn't sort of, in inverted commas, waste my time with, but creating a contact with people, eye contact, and first of all, to gauge how people are understanding, whether they're understanding what you are saying. Apart from that, so that people, even the others with whom you do not have an eye contact, understanding that you are very much involved in what is being said. You are interested not only in saying things, sort of chin up and looking over your audience, but actually engaging with your audience, connecting with your audience without sounding too smart. That is why it is important that before the actual event, you actually survey the audience, see where people are positioned, look at what level of interest they are in, how interested they are. Apart from that, it's also that you need to embody energy. Don't go into debates if you're tired, if you're exhausted. Don't go into debates if you've been, 8-10 hours, you've had 8-10 hours of work. You need to rest, you need to have a clear mind, you need to be prepared, but you have to be fresh, because that will come across. I mean, debates, sap the energy out of you. Probably these are all very important, very things that you are all very much aware on. Apart from that, also something that helps in debate is using keywords that keep resonating. For example, in my actual presentation today, I'm using repeatedly, even though there's other material, loads of other material which I've prepared, but I keep using the ethos, the pathos, the logos. I'm using that as well. I'm trying to drill that in so that I give you a context. I frame my arguments within keywords. People need to keep coming back because people are thinking about other things. People are concerned about things that happen to them. People are concerned because they got a message from their partner who says that, listen, they've had enough of their long working hours. Probably I have something similar here in my mobile. So you need to make sure that you keep people in tune with you by using these keywords, by connecting, by embodying energy. Don't overdo it with notes. Keep it to the minimum. You know that notes are, I mean, you have to be prepared, but then the actual notes have to be very, very economical, possibly in a one-pager, not more than 2 pages, if you had to ask me, with color codes to make sure that you have very well structured, and it doesn't make you look at papers all the time. Okay, stage presence is also important. take on board your stage. I mean, the stage is yours. Enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, don't do it. Like anything else in life, if you had to ask me, I know this sounds a bit hedonistic, but don't do things if you don't enjoy it. Not that you're not anxious about, but because that's fine. You know, a bit of stage fright, I get that before every lecture I do, and before every session I have. I'm excited. I'm worried. I don't sleep well. Which is fine. It still happens to me, and I hope it will remain. It will keep happening to me. But once you're on stage, the way you gesticulate, the way you work around the stage, the way you look at people, never undermining people, never looking down at your opponent, looking rather at your opponent when they're speaking, never crossing hands possibly. Remain respectful. Don't position yourself with body language which is defensive or aggressive or hostile. Even your voice control. You make sure that you use your voice. Make sure that you are in control over your voice. Once you start croaking or once you start losing your voice, then that means you're overdoing it, either speaking too much like I'm doing right now, or else you're tired or you're exhausted, or else you're trying to, the anxiety is catching up on you. So make sure that you have a very strong voice. What you wear is also very important. I wouldn't go with a lot of flowery things and colors and too much of that. I would stick to usually what works best would be a light color. Okay, so that people can immediately locate you, and possibly as much as possible in a uniform color. You don't have to be wearing like white as if you're on with a boiler suit, but try not to overdo it with clothing, and don't in the case of men, which usually are the ones who put on suits, even women, but don't overdo it with ties and cravats and all this stuff. Don't create barriers in your clothing as well. And if you're debating with young people, and if you're debating within a context of, you need to take that in mind as well. That your dress code needs to be something that your audience has a relationship with. And apropos to relations, the audience relations. It is very important. Pregnant pauses. Not too many, but the occasional pregnant pause, so that people, you get people back. Gesticulating, but not too much. Looking at people. Being conscious of your facial expressions. Don't sweat. All right, keep calm. At the end of the day, you're not going to die if you're going to lose a debate. That's fine. There'll be another one. People will forget. In a couple of minutes after you've made a mess of yourself, people will forget. Don't worry. People have a lot on their minds, so they won't keep saying, you know what, Andrew, his performance, or you know what, whoever her performance. It won't be that way. You think that's going to happen that way? No, that's fine. It is allowed that you lose out on arguments and on debates that you might have. How should one control their temper in a sensitive debate? Wow, that's a difficult one. I mean, you will lose it. You will lose, not you will lose it. You will lose your debate if you will lose it. It's absolutely, if you had to ask me, a no-go. I mean, confrontation, one. A tit for tat, I wouldn't go for that. You said this, I said this, you said this. You know what you said? You don't need to let the audience do that work. But yeah, keeping calm is fundamental. Now, when you believe in the topic that you are engaged with, then obviously it will be a bit more difficult to retain that composure. But composure is very important. Very important. How do you do that? By practicing, by reflecting on your performances, by checking out how people have saw you, people who are comfortable enough to tell you, listen, you were an absolute disaster. people who you are comfortable with because they are critical friends, people who love you, but who will, because they love you, will tell you, listen, I mean, I wouldn't have gone for the jugular. I wouldn't have gone, head on. I wouldn't have dismissed the other person. People who are ready to tell you that. But yes, it is very important. Composure is very important. Now, the balance is composure and balanced out with passion. So, and that is not always easy but yes, passion is fine. You can throw that as much as you want, but yeah, you need to be careful when it comes to actually losing it. And you need to keep in mind, that is why it's important that you have a bit of mindfulness training, of like reflecting and going into a debate in a certain level of calm, because it isn't the people who shout most who will get applauded. It is the people who are the most clear, the most factual, the most logical, the people who are most who come across as having who are most sensitive to what is being said, what is being exchanged. So there's a whole melange of what makes a successful debater. I don't think that throwing, like shouting out at either your opponent or your audience works out. So if you have that type of character, that personality, whoever it is, and I tend to be a bit like that at times, especially when I feel that there's something which is intrinsically wrong that is being said, it gets to my temper. Then you need to practice more. You need to think things through more.
So, for instance, someone caught you off guard and they ask you a question which you have no idea how to answer. How do you appear credible there? Like, how do you convince someone of your credibility if you have no idea how to answer this question?
Yes, this happens, Nick. This happens. It happens all the time. It happens to me as a lecturer. It happens to me when I'm debating stuff. It happens to us, probably all of us. If there's a little strategy that works, that will give you some time to think, is that you throw back the question. I think throwing back a question usually helps to give you a bit of a breather. That will give you some time to think through your strategy. You also need to recognize that that you might not have an answer. Then there's the issue of not having an answer to it. It is how you respond to that. It is not saying the problem is not, Nick. It's not saying, listen, I really have not thought about this. I mean, this sounds like a relevant point. I have not thought about it. So yeah, I'll definitely pick that up and then move on very quickly to the next, to continuing your argument. So don't labor too much on things that you don't know about, and don't. You need to be humble, but don't humiliate yourself. So you need to be humble by saying, listen, this is something that I did not think about. But it's another thing. I mean, this is really, I really didn't think about this, and this is really a valid point, and I really apologize for not. I think that is overboard. I think you need to recognize that you don't have an answer for that. Throwing back a question might help to create some time. If you do not have an answer to that, you say that you don't have an answer to that. Thank you very much. This is a really good point. I do not have an answer to that. It's something that we need to reflect on. But then you get on with what you're talking. Move on to something which then gives you credibility, which gives you strength, which gives you a noomph. Apart from that, I also think that in debates we usually tend to throw the best things at the beginning, the best points, the best argument. I wouldn't do that. Why? because if it's a debate that's going from one point to another, if you're going to throw the good things at the beginning, your opponent will get to know on how to answer to those points. So I would have a very good start, definitely, a very good preamble, definitely, but I would leave a good point, a good statistic, you know, the what do you call it? The punchline. Sorry, I'd leave a very strong punchline at the end of the debate, so that you finish up with something which is very strong. So if I had to sort of frame all of this, I said, first, method one, the basics, timing everything, make sure that you have a strategy on how you're going to use those 5 minutes, those 7 minutes. Keep in mind that 5 minutes might be very long, they might be very short. They definitely never feel like 5 minutes. They either feel like 50 or they feel like 5 seconds. So it is very difficult so rehearse and make sure that your timing is fine. Don't overdo it with data. Don't overdo it with material. Take time. On the other hand, I think talking fast, not like I'm doing because I'm trying to say a lot of things in a short period of time, but talking fast, and that will give the feeling that you are persuasive. When you're talking fast, when you are bringing in ideas, and you know what, there's this other issue, and let me give you an example about this, and it excites people, it keeps people waiting for the next thing, but it's also helps persuade. Third thing, the incentive. Make sure that you are giving something to the audience, and this is really important. Give them something that makes them think. Don't say it all for them, but how would you feel if you are walking through that police station, half naked, dragging a child of 8-10 years old, and trying to find find the right words to say to that police officer? Now, how would you feel about that? How would you feel about how should the police officer should feel about that? Okay, we got a tip here which I'd like to share. Natasha, when writing your speech, if you do that, 1 minute is equal to approximately 150 words, but only a tip. Some speak faster, others slower. Yeah. Thanks, Natasha, for that. So yes, preparation for sure, and having a good structure is very important. This is going to sound terrible, not intended to be, but it's going to sound terrible. But keep it in mind, what I'm going to say, within the context, if I may, within the context of a strategy. Guilt is a good tool to use. Now, when I say guilt, it's not making people, knocking people off their feet. It is about people realizing that they might have a responsibility for that. How many times do we think that a woman who's wearing a short skirt is provoking man? How many times did we think that being black and not subscribing to the modalities, to the norms of our culture makes you feel threatened? How many times? And you can go. So I think creating and connecting with the emotional intelligence of individuals, connecting with these feelings of guilt in that sense, guilt in the sense of getting people acquainted, attuned to what they feel, to what they thought, to what they have been feeling. I think will might help. I think I got, yes, Jenny shared that when I started working in a radio, I got a tip, two rows of text is 10 seconds. Yeah, that's true, that's true. I think I'll start rounding up, Nicole, because I don't want to tire you too much. Probably I've done that anyway too, already. But okay, maybe a couple of things that might help persuade, because debating is about persuading. It's not just about convincing yourself. You're convinced. You don't need to. I mean, you can speak in front of a mirror. You don't need to go to the atrocities of a debate to convince yourself. You don't need that. You know what you think. You think about this on your trips with your cars, with your trains, etc. So you don't need, but you need to persuade others. Now, how do you do that? As we've been saying, use future tense. Show that there is hope in your language, in your lingo. Show that there is hope. Use the future tense. We can have police officers who understand how things should be done. We should have better police officer training. We should have, etc., etc. Okay. The buzzwords, the slogans, the catchphrases, call them what you want, so that people keep coming back, keep connecting. When you start losing them, you are using those keywords. It keeps your debate aligned. It's like a spine where you have your keywords coming back, being used as a reference point. This is a bit naughty. If you feel that you are being run over by your opponent, use what he's saying, use what she's saying. If she has a good argument, ride on it. And you know what pisses your opponent off probably will be, and I would like to add to what Sheila or what John has said. I think that works. It's a naughty way. It's a bit naughty, but that's fine. So ride on your opponent's good arguments. This is really, this is a really good argument. Saying that is a really good argument. But I'd like to add a teeny bit to that, and that becomes yours. That becomes yours. That argument becomes yours then. The perception of people is that you have done something better with that argument. When in doubt, concede. Humility. As Nicole pointed out, Nicole sort of raised the issue, concede. I do it, but then move on. Don't labor on that. Move on. I am very keen on positioning and opinion. Be opinionated. This is where you stand with me. This is what I believe. This is not just textbook research. This is not just picking up data, but this is what I believe as well. When people see conviction, even if they do not agree with you, they will embody that. They will relate to that. Imagery is very important, especially if you're using PowerPoint or if you're, or your image in terms of how you look, etc. Imagery is very important. I know this sounds a bit terrible in a way. I'm not saying that people need, to overdo it, but imagery presentation is very important. Emotion, I would save emotion for the end. I would leave a bit of emotion at the end. People love getting this niggly feeling that something's been communicated to our emotions. We are very emotional creatures. Timing. Now this is fundamental, and I'll really end up with this. Timing is very important. Make sure that you do not have a half-finished argument and the bell is ringing and the mic is switched off, because that will look very bad on you. Or on the other hand, you're not using your time. So without stretching your arguments and repeating yourself, make sure that in this color-coded page, you have a couple of catchphrases or a couple of ideas that you can throw into so that you fill in. Okay, so I've done this argument, I've located this position. Now in these last 20 seconds, okay, you're showing that you are aware of the timing, you are in control, you're managing your time, you're managing the argument and you're managing your time. In these last 20 seconds, I will tell you just this little bit to round this off. Ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and bang, the bell goes. And really, finally, do not be hurtful. Never. It's not worth it. It's really not worth it. No, don't be hurtful. Don't. Even if the other person is speaking crap, literally vomiting shit out of his or her mouth. Never be hurtful. The moment that you victimize your opponent, you've lost. With all the rubbish the other person might be saying, do not belittle him, her, do not demean him, her, do not pull him out, pull the carpet out from under his her feet. Argue, respond to those argumentation, not steal, but make use of their good arguments, but do not victimize the other person. You will lose the debate. You will lose it for sure, because people will tend to align themselves with the victims. So there you go. That's about it. There were loads, like 100 other points I would have liked to make, but as it goes, as the proverbial enough is enough goes.